What's up guys, Zach here. Today I want to discuss Assassin's Creed Odyssey since I recently finished it and I think it's a good game, but it could have been a masterpiece. Let me explain. So the game has fantastic writing, but unfortunately its conclusion was extremely messy and non-eventful. The game has 3 story arcs. There's one that is pretty much the main one, and then you have 2 side story arcs. The issue with the game's main story arc is it's padded, because if you just try and go straight through and do the main storyline, you have to do the side content in order to keep your level up to the main storyline, unless you're facing skulls, which I don't think anyone wants to do, and that's not the intent. So if you're playing it as it's intended, you're going to do a good bit of side content, and then if you want, you can have the optional purchase of purchasing a XP boost that's permanent to your account. That is how you minimize the amount of side content that you have to do in order to do that main story arc, but it's not how you prevent yourself from having to do side content. You still will have to do a good bit of side content within the game's main storyline in order to keep your level right at where the main storyline wants you to be. So I can't personally say how it feels without the boost, but I can only imagine, considering how much side content I did just leisurely, and then on top of that, in order to keep my level up, you probably have to do a very good bit of side content in order to keep yourself at the same level your main story quest is, and that's unacceptable. That is a tactic that they do to keep you in the game as long as possible, because it's a games as a service model, so that way you check out the item mall, you buy the XP boosters, and you give them extra money. That's literally what that's there for. It's not because that's what the game should be. That's not the best way to make the game feel. But then you have the second story arc. I'm just going to call it the second story arc, but it's structured as Mafia 3. If you've ever played Mafia 3, Mafia 3 is an extremely padded game that is unbelievably annoying. Unbelievably annoying because of the fact that Mafia 3's storyline was great, but you had to do a lot of fluff in between in order to get to those story elements. The second story arc doesn't even have a lot of great story elements to it, but it has a lot of padding. So in order to get the game's second ending, you have to go through all that padding that it doesn't even explain itself half the time what you need to do in order to get the clues, in order to kill the target that you're supposed to be trying to kill. And keep in mind, I'm trying to avoid spoilers as much as possible here while still trying to describe this, but it doesn't really describe things very well enough where you're having to basically search for a while and spend even more time just to try and get that second ending. So you have that padding there on top of the padding already from the main arc. Then you have the third arc, which I completely am fine with. I mean, it wasn't really that padded. I thought that there was a good bit of story elements within it, and I thought that the payoff at the end was pretty decent. But they don't tie together, even though in the main story arc they are tied together. So you have this main story arc that is saying all this other stuff is relevant, and then at the end it's like, oh, it doesn't matter though. And then in order for you to get the second endings, you have to go through a bunch of padding, at least within the second story arc, in order to get the second ending. And then the third ending, it takes a good bit of time too. So you have a lot of time spent trying to get the entire story of Assassin's Creed Odyssey when it all could have been tied together and bow-tied in a 25-hour package without pacing issues, and it would have been a masterpiece. I mean, there's a little bit of minor issues on top of that, like the mercenary system is way too prevalent. It needs to feel a lot more of like a unique engagement, instead of it being like, oh, I'm playing the game and now I'm at 4 Spartan skulls out of 5, or I'm at 5 Spartan skulls, which happen constantly for me. I was just trying to play the game, and it's like, you're a criminal, you're horrible, how dare you? It's like, okay, well, I'm just playing the game. No, that's unacceptable. We're gonna send 5 mercenaries at you right now. I'm just like, no? Why? And it's not like these mercenaries are that difficult. They're just freaking annoying. Like, I'm just trying to sneak through a fortress, and then I hear the mercenary horn. Oh, great, there's a mercenary coming. Oh, there's 3 of them. Oh, fantastic. Can't just instantly one-shot those guys, so I'm gonna have to get myself out of aggro and stealth assassinate them and just alert everybody. It's just, like, that's a small complaint. It's not like the main thing that's the issue with that presents Assassin's Creed Odyssey from being a masterpiece in my opinion, but that's at least one element on top of the storylines that I had an issue with. And then you have things like the fact that on normal mode the game is far too easy, that shouldn't be the case. Normal mode should at least have some challenge, but it really doesn't. So there's some minor issues on top of this story, but despite the fact the story has fantastic writing, it feels extremely diluted because of how much padding's there, because of the fact the game is a games as a service model where they try and keep you in the game as long as possible so that way you spend more money. Even though you already spent your $60, you have to spend more money. They must have your entire bank account. And that's the issue with modern day Ubisoft. They make good games, even great games, but they pad them and dilute them so they'll never make a masterpiece. CD Projekt Red is the formula of how to make a masterpiece. Make your game wrapped around that $60 model. You'll make a lot of profit. They make a ton of profit. It's not like they lose money. But for Ubisoft, being a company that loves their money, they're going to try and get as much profit as possible. They don't care about a 20, 30%, 40% profit. They want as much profit as possible, and they want, for the long term, that to be a revenue stream. And unfortunately, that dilutes the art that all these developers did and basically eliminates them from that masterpiece picture, that Game of the Year picture, and that's extremely unfortunate. Because what's there is so close, but because it's padded, it's so far away. That is it for me, guys. Leave your thoughts down below what you think of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And as always, I'll catch you guys next time.